Welcome to the Frontline Fantasy Football Podcast. This is your host, Jason Cameron, and I'm joined by Jonathan.
Oh, hello.
Hausler. He's going to be our producer / co-host today.
I'm hiding over here again.
You're the new Eisner's 2.0.
All right.
So, no Seth, no Brandon, no Austin. We got other stuff to do, I guess.
That's okay.
So Jonathan and I are going to bring you your fantasy insight this week. Going into week 12. Today is November 22nd. It's Wednesday.
Correct.
Tomorrow's Thanksgiving.
Oh, yeah.
Can't wait to stuff our faces.
I'm already fasting.
Hey, that's smart. Got to save up for the big splurge that's going to happen tomorrow.
It's true.
So before we get this podcast started, we wanted to say thank you to toiletlosers.com / they sent us these awesome trophies right here. You see a bobblehead. This one you can engrave. And then we got the porcelain toilet over here. It's actually one of my personal favorites. You should check this out, toiletlosers.com. Make sure you put the / at the end of that. You can buy yourself a loser trophy. They also have another trophy.
Ooh.
It is a Donald Trump toilet trophy. Which
creative.
I'm huge on social media. It's what the box says. So if you take a look at this in our YouTube page, you can check it out. We're actually going to give this one away to one of our lucky listeners. All you got to do is tweet us, Fantasy Donald. Just say Fantasy Donald, and then it will be yours. So first one to say Fantasy Donald to our Twitter account, Frontline FF, wins the Donald Trump.
It's that easy.
Loser trophy. So let's just get this podcast started. Let's go into injuries. First up, Chris Thompson, fractured fibula, obviously out for the season.
Yeah.
They just had Rob Kelly also out for the season, so it looks like all systems go for a Samaj P run.
Yeah, and he looked decent this past week.
Yeah.
Looked startable.
Actually had over 100 rushing yards and a touchdown, I believe.
Yeah.
So gonna be interesting. Honestly, probably a running back too going forward.
I would think so too.
I think their schedule is pretty easy. I'd have to look at it again, but take a look at that. Robert Woods, next injury, sprained AC joint. He actually had a decent game, 6 catches, around 60-something yards. So out 2 to 3 weeks with that AC joint. Cooper Kupp, Sammy Watkins. I'd say Cooper Kupp more than Sammy Watkins will
I agree.
get the bump.
Yep.
So pick him up if he's not already picked up in your league. Jay Cutler has a concussion. Still actually going through the concussion protocol this on this Wednesday, so unsure if he's going to play. Matt Moore actually looked decent, but I mean, there's that first week he actually started where he looked terrible. So,
yeah, you can't trust him.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not too happy about that. If I'm a Jarvis Landry owner
or Devontae Parker,
yeah, especially Kenny Stills, I guess he's targeted frequently. No matter what the quarterback. So
very true.
Be watching out for that. Jake Elliott, concussion. Just the reason I mentioned this one is because Jonathan had him.
It figures.
He had him in a bold bet, and he injured himself on his first kickoff of the game.
Yeah, it was lovely.
Trying to make a tackle. And then last injury to mention, Donta Foreman, the backup for the Texans, backup running back for Lamar Miller, tore his Achilles, done for the season. He did it on his last touchdown run too. He had 2 touchdowns.
That's crazy.
So he had
I mean, it's good
nice
for for Lamar Miller owners, but
right.
It's just sad to watch.
Yeah,
sad to hear.
All right, so let's head on over to the news. Jonathan, you want to start this one off?
Yeah, we just got a few items here. First up, the Broncos announced that Paxton Lynch is their starter for this week, so the Osweiler era is already over.
What?
I know, crazy. Who never would have thought that would happen? Then the Bills announced that Tyrod Taylor is starting, and apparently they trust him again.
I mean, how could you not?
I mean, it's a good decision by them, but
I mean, well, the thing is, Nathan Peterman was 8 for 11 on passes. Just 5 of those were to the other team in a half.
So bad.
I think this was the worst fantasy performance ever by anybody, which, I mean, doesn't surprise me. -7 points or -8.
Yeah.
I think he had some passing yards to
he had a few
to negate the -10, but
right.
Anyway.
Still terrible. Next one, this one was just announced this afternoon, but Darrelle Revis got signed by the Chiefs. He's coming out of retirement, apparently, to play for the Chiefs.
Can't be any worse than their second and third corner.
Seriously.
So if he's anywhere decent, I mean, it's not a must start for that number 2 wide receiver going against the Chiefs.
Right. Very true.
So this week's games we have, the Thursday night games I want to read off just so you know what's coming tomorrow. We have Vikings versus Lions. That's the first game at 12:30. Second game at 4:30 we have the Chargers versus Cowboys, and then the third game at 8:30 we have the Redskins versus the Giants. So, I mean, we have some pretty good games for once. I mean, the Lions get a play on Thanksgiving every year, and normally they suck, so it's pretty boring.
And they're playing a good Vikings team, so that'll be fun to watch.
For the lead of the division.
Yeah.
All right, so let's move on to dogs versus babies.
Oof.
Rough week for everybody, no pun intended.
Ayo.
Babies. So Blake and Ezra, Jonathan and my sons, or I guess my son and Jonathan's son in the way I read it.
If you're matching them up, yeah.
Both chose Evan Ingram, and Evan Ingram had a whopping 0.9 in standard. For the dogs, Brandon's dog, Chief, chose Evan Ingram, and then Seth, the only winner, Seth's dog, Khaleesi, chose Jimmy Graham, who ended up having 13.8 points in the standard league. So that would tie it back up. Dogs are 3 for 8. Babies are 3 for 8. Oh, yeah. I mean, there's no dog owners here. Why would you?
I'm doing the drops
I think
for Seth.
Somebody's excited to use the drops today.
I am.
All right.
First time ever.
So our next section is, did Brock Osweiler suck this week?
A little, kind of.
I mean, he did good for him.
Yeah.
He lost the job, I guess. But
right. Not good enough to keep the job.
All right, next segment, turkey or stuffing. So basically, you're going to say turkey if it's relevant news I'm going to read off, or you're going to say stuffing if you just think it doesn't matter. And we're obviously going along with our Thanksgiving-themed podcast.
Yeah.
There will be no characters in this one. If you are one of our 3 to 4 listeners in our second year of the podcast.
Never forget.
Hopefully those episodes are deleted. All right, so first one up. I'll let you go first. Josh, I'll let you go first on each one of them. Obviously, I'm reading them. So.
Okay, all right. Good plan.
First one, Josh Doxson's snap count and targets keep rising. Is that a turkey or stuffing?
Man.
I'm starting you off with the hard one.
You are starting me off with a hard one.
There's no medium either.
Yeah. There's no, you know me, I like the medium. I'm going to go turkey. I'm going turkey. I think with the loss of Chris Thompson, there's more targets to be had now. And everyone has been jumping on the Doxson bandwagon for weeks. I haven't really been on that, but last week is kind of a good sign. He had 80 something yards, I believe.
Yeah.
And so now it seems like he's finally doing something with them, Before it was just kind of like, eh.
Right.
But it seems like he's finally going somewhere now.
Yeah, I'm with Jonathan. I'm going turkey on this one. I think the Redskins throw the ball a ton. I mean, they lost, obviously, Chris Thompson, like you said, and I think he's going to benefit from that. He's just a low-end flex for me.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't. It's only if you don't have anybody else.
Right.
Basically. All
right, up next, J.D. McKissick is the Seahawks running back to own.
Oh, I'm going stuffing.
Stuffing.
It's definitely stuffing. I will be fair. He has looked good with what he's had. He had 10 points, I think, in PPR this past week, and he finds a way to get into the end zone, it seems like, in his previous weeks. But I just think the Seahawks backfield is too hard to trust. And then, I don't know, they're incorporating all these other random guys in there too. I mean,
yeah, Mike Davis, Eddie Lacy,
right. Thomas Rawls with a healthy scratch.
Right. CJ Procise was in there for a little bit.
Right. Obviously, he's hurt again. But I don't know. I just think Seahawks, they're balling, they're throwing it. They're not really going to be running it a lot. So
right.
I don't trust them.
I'm with you. I'm stuffing as well. I think the Seahawks running back to own is Russell Wilson. He actually leads the team in rushing yards. So obviously, we're just avoiding the whole Seahawks backfield, I guess, is stuffing.
Don't even try.
Both of us. All right, Samaje Perine is a running back 2 for the rest of the season.
I'll go turkey. Yeah, I'll do it. The he had a good game this past week. Before that, he didn't do anything stellar. But I think now that he's basically the only running back they have, I think you got to start him. He's going to get the volume.
Agreed. I mean, he leads the team in rush attempts. That was even with Rob Kelly and Chris Thompson in there. So
dang,
he's the guy to have, guy to own. Next one, Devontae Booker outsnapped C.J. Anderson. This one's a little bit tougher because he actually had 10 points without the touchdown that C.J. Anderson ended up vulturing.
Right. It's funny that you say vulturing because, I mean, it just seems like
he's a starting back.
Yeah, exactly. It seems like it should be the other way around. Booker should be the vulture to C.J. Anderson.
Right.
C.J. Anderson, in my opinion, is the more talented back. But I will say Turkey just because.
Wow.
The Broncos, for some reason, love Devontae Booker, and they just like their mission is to get him as much playing time as possible. And I don't know, they think that he can just take over.
He actually won the job before he ended up getting hurt before the season started. So
right,
I'm still going stuff. I don't want anything to do with this backfield.
I mean, I don't want anything to do with him, but I just think,
I guess relevant news.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
you're saying it's okay.
I mean, I believe that he's going to keep having the majority of the carries or playing time.
Right. Yeah, I guess that's where I would go with it too. You believe that he'd be the Broncos running back you'd regretfully want to own.
Right, if you had to. But poor C.J.
Avoid
Anderson.
if you can.
Yes.
Up next, Brandon Cooks wants to spend the rest of his career with the Patriots, so not super fantasy relevant, but.
Ooh, I like that.
But is that Tom Brady and Belichick staying around for?
I don't know. I mean, probably. I mean, Brady maybe has another year. I don't know. I don't want to bet on Brady. I mean, I just think he's shown that he is.
You
he
don't
still
want to
has
bet
it.
on him?
I mean, I do want to bet on him. I guess I don't want to bet. I don't want to bet against him. Sorry, I misspoke there. But I don't know.
Bet against Brady.
I think the Patriots players make. You're gonna get the toilet.
Pointing to the toilet.
Oh wait, I gotta find it.
All right, when Jonathan's finding that, I mean, Brandon Cooks, rest of the year rest of his career, I think that's Turkey. But
you think it's Turkey? I would say Turkey too. I mean,
he's
doing good. He's doing awesome.
The Patriots will cut you if you're not producing.
Right. So you actually have to do something with while you're on their team. Well, I cannot find this toilet one.
Would you play some different drops until you find it?
Okay. All right. We'll get there.
Very applicable on the journey to finding the. Oh, closer.
We're getting there.
Closer.
Oh, here we go.
ToiletLosers.com /
Third time's a charm on that drop.
There we go. So last one, Tom Savage said he's going to continue to throw the ball downfield. Turkey.
He's got jokes.
Turkey or stuffing?
Stuffing. I hate Tom Savage.
Whoa. What did he do to you?
He made Will Fuller irrelevant.
Fair enough. You deserve that.
Yeah. But I don't have any faith in him.
Okay, I'm going to say Turkey just for the fact that I like that he's going to throw the ball downfield.
I mean, that is a good thing. As a quarterback, that should be your goal.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you get the ball out of your hands. But
right.
Basically, if you're DeAndre Hopkins, or DeAndre Hopkins owner, you know that he's going to at least keep throwing to your guy.
True.
If you're anybody else, blah. But
yeah.
So that is Turkey and stuffing. Let's move on to our Week 6 bold predictions. But obviously, before we do that, we got to take a look at last week's bold predictions.
Do we have to?
It's a bad week for everybody.
Yeah.
Up first, Austin. Travis Kelce will score 20-plus fantasy points, and that was actually incorrect. He had 8.9. Travis Kelce did.
Okay.
Brandon's first one, rolling with Ryan Suckup again. Ryan Suckup will score more points than Le'Veon Bell. That was incorrect because Suckup had 5 points to Le'Veon Bell's 10.3 in standard.
Oh.
So close.
Those are my favorite, though. It was close.
Okay, my first one, Jay Ajayi will be a top 5 running back, and I was, of course, incorrect. He was the 22nd best running back.
He still got a touchdown, though.
He did. He at least got you double-digit points.
Yeah, still did okay.
And then the Jonathan's first one. Rex Burkhead will be a top 17 running back. And Jonathan continues on his regular streak with a big old swing and a miss. He was the 43rd best running back.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, second one for Austin. The Chargers will be a top 3 scoring defense. This one I question whether it was actually bold. I mean, you're going against Nathan Peterman.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of to be expected. But
I feel like we have to give it to him still.
I think so, too. Just in his defense, it's like, I mean, the Chargers defense hasn't been great up until this point. And I feel like no one predicted Nathan Peterman would be that bad. 5 interception bad.
No, not 5 interception bad. No way.
So I'll give it to him.
So he got correct. They were the second. Surprisingly, not the first with like 24 points. The Jags decided they wanted to be the best.
Oh, yeah.
30 points. Jeez. All right, Brandon, his second one. Nathan Peterman. This one, I mean, boldness as well. Nathan Peterman will score less than 10 fantasy points. That was incorrect. Nathan Peterman.
Yeah, jackass.
Nathan Peterman scored -7 points.
Ooh.
So Brandon had 17 to spare. My second one, Brandon Cooks will have at least 150 receiving yards, and this one is the worst loss I've ever taken because he had 149 receiving yards.
Oh, my gosh.
Thank you, Raiders, because you suck. That's why he only got 149. He didn't even have to play the fourth quarter.
Ooh.
149.
Dude, I should just give it to you. It's so close.
And Jonathan, his second one, as we mentioned earlier, Jake Elliott will score more fantasy points than LaShawn McCoy. And even if... Well, you want to play that one?
You are an idiot.
There we go.
To myself.
Yes. Jake Elliott had 0 because he got a concussion trying to tackle. And LaShawn McCoy had his best week at 24.6 standard league.
It was a bad week to try the kicker bold prediction.
Yes, it was. I mean, even if he'd played pretty well, he probably wouldn't have beaten LaShawn McCoy.
Nope, there was no hope.
All right, so let's go ahead and do this week's bold predictions.
All right.
Jonathan, lead us off.
My first one is an old favorite. I predict that Doug Baldwin will score more points than Melvin Gordon in PPR.
In PPR.
PPR. So I give myself a little bit of a boost, but still.
I have Melvin Gordon as my number 2 running back this week. You can check that out on frontlinefantasyfootball.com. So my first, or John, let's do Brandon's first one. Eli Manning will be a top 5 quarterback. Yeah.
Oh.
Yikes.
That's bold.
That is, he went really bold this week.
Against the Redskins, okay.
My first one, Devin Funchess will be a top 7 receiver against the Jets. Yeah. We'll see about that.
I like that.
Let's go ahead and go to your second bold prediction, Jonathan.
Second one, Deion Lewis will be a top 10 running back this week against Miami Dolphins.
I feel like, I don't know. That's definitely bold because I just feel like it's going to be so spread out. I don't know.
It's hard to trust the Patriots running back to do that well,
right?
When they have 3 that they rotate in. So, but I'm going there. I'm trying it.
Hey, you might as well.
Yeah, nothing to lose.
Yeah. Speaking of the Patriots, Chris Hogan going to be out this week again. He didn't even. The Patriots ended up going to Mexico, and then they didn't go back to Boston or they didn't go back home. They ended up going straight to Miami from Mexico.
Oh, dang.
Hung out there. So Chris Hogan didn't make the trip to Mexico, and he was possibly going to meet him in Miami, but did not. So not playing this week.
Hopefully next week.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Brandon's second one, his beloved Dez Bryant will be a top 10 receiver.
What? I'm surprised.
Yeah, I know. I'm surprised. He hates Dez Bryant. He hates AP, and he picked Dez Bryant to do well. I was shocked when I saw this come through.
Wow.
So we'll see about that. My second one, in Greg Olson's return, he finishes as a top 3 tight end.
Oh, here we go.
I feel it. Both Panthers bets this week.
Nice.
All right. So let's go on to our next one, our next section, and that is the start section. Just players we think you should start. We tried to pull some non-typical players. I mean, It was tough this week. It was definitely tough this week.
It was really tough. I mean, because obviously you're going to be starting your studs.
Right.
But even finding the tier below that is hard too. You know, they're picking ones from the tier below the studs.
That's
basically.
kind of where I was this week with
Yeah.
mine. So, you want to start us off?
Yeah, my first one, Latavius Murray. He's had 2 good games in a row this so far. Last week he had 15 carries, 95 yards, and 2 touchdowns. So this week he goes against the Lions. They're giving up a lot of touchdowns to running backs, and they've allowed over 200 rushing yards in back-to-back games. So it's a good spot for Latavius Murray if the game script's in his favor. It looks to be a close game, so it should be. I'm kind of counting on him.
I like that call too. It'll be hard to pass against those Lions corners.
Very true.
Do we have music, by the way?
Yes, I'll bring it up.
All right.
Thanks
so
for
my
reminding
first one is Delaney Walker. I mean, he's a top 10 tight end, so you're most likely going to start him anyway, but has at least 4 receptions in the last 5 games. The Colts rank 23rd against tight ends, so they've been struggling. Tight ends versus the Colts are averaging 8 points a game, so that doesn't seem like that great, but for a tight end this year, that's pretty good.
Yeah, it's a
and
solid floor.
Still sees a consistent amount of targets, even with the return of Corey Davis, who everybody thought was going to take a majority of the targets, which he has, but it hasn't affected Delaney Walker at all.
Very true.
Go ahead with your next one.
Next one I had was Juju Smith-Schuster. He's been kind of on the radar for a little while, but he didn't score last week. However, he has a much better matchup this week against the Packers. He does have a small hamstring injury right now, so make sure you monitor that. But the Packers defense has allowed top 30 scoring weeks to 5 pairs of wide receivers from the same team.
I like that.
So there's opportunity for both him and Brown to go off this week.
All right, my next one, Alshon Jeffrey versus the Bears. 4 touchdowns in his last 3 games. Eagles' offense is obviously clicking, and then he leads the team in targets, 80 targets. So,
yeah,
I mean, you're starting to see the rise of Alshon. And I think at the beginning of the year we talked about 2 players that wouldn't surprise us. They're lower-rated wide receivers that wouldn't surprise us if they ended up in the top 10. And that was Alshon Jeffrey and Terrell Pryor. We were right about one of them. Terrell Pryor, obviously not.
Yeah, that was not good.
Bad call. Hey, it happens.
That's true. We're not perfect.
Nope. Close, though.
Yes.
Very close.
As close as you can be.
Yeah. 99.9.
True. My next one, Tyler Kroft, the Bengals tight end. He's a red zone machine. He's been a tight end 13 or better in 5 of his past 7 games. And this week they play Cleveland, and they've allowed the second most touchdowns to the tight end position. So I would definitely count on Kroft making an end zone appearance again this week.
Also monitor, he has a hand injury.
Oh.
So he injured it last week, left the game, came back in, and they threw a pass to him. He dropped it, and then he left the game again. So
Bummer.
I wouldn't expect it to be anything bad, but
Right. Hopefully I'm sure he'll play through it, but
yeah.
something to monitor.
My next one, I mean, and kind of another big name, but people have a lot of questions about this guy, T.Y. Hilton. Playing the Titans rank 28th against wide receivers this year. The Titans have given up 6 receiving touchdowns in the last 3 games, and the Titans have give up an average of 25 points to receivers. So, I mean, Dante Moncrief might take 6 points. I mean,
Yeah.
Couple to
Doyle maybe.
Yeah.
He's not really a wide receiver.
Just a wide receiver. So, I mean, where are those 25 points going to go? I think they got to go to T.Y. So, T.Y. is almost a must start for me this week.
I agree. I mean, it's been a little hard to trust him just because he's been so boom or bust. But I agree. This is a perfect boom week for him. And just even to go into like that stat even further, I saw that the Titans are allowing 14.6 or more to 8 of the 10 wide receiver ones that they've faced. So 14 of those points go to wide receiver ones.
All systems go, T.Y.
Seriously.
Start him.
Do it. My last one I had was Rex Burkhead going against Miami this week, who their defense has not been good at all. And even though he fumbled last week and that affected his usage a little bit, I still think he's a solid flex play at the most, and he should see the field a lot this week. So I think he has a more of a solid floor in PPR. So if you're PPR, I would fire him up. In standard, I probably not, but PPR for sure.
Agreed. I have two more. So Jacoby Brissett versus the Titans. Kind of picking on the Titans again this week. Double-digit fantasy points in 7 of his last 8 games. He also has 2 30-point games and I think a couple 20-point games. The Titans have given up... Nope. Oh, reading from the top one. The Titans have given up at least one passing touchdown in every game but one this year. So I like that. So if you just put together those last 2 stats, Colts given up at least 200 passing yards in every game, and they've given up a touchdown a game. That's 14 points right there. And that, or the Titans, sorry, not the Colts. So if you put those 200 yards and a touchdown, that's 14 points, and he could easily exceed that. So I think he's definitely a streaming option this week, especially if you were streaming, Jay Cutler. I saw somebody last week. It was Nathan Peterman, Ryan Fitzpatrick, not TJ Yates, Tom Savage, and Blaine Gabbert.
Oh man.
Yeah.
That's a crapshoot.
Yeah. Well, Gabbert actually panned out.
Right, but like before game time.
I was looking at that. I was like, oh well, this guy's ranked 25th and he's my best one. But I don't know. But I actually, it's kind of a funny story. I had somebody argue with me about Nathan Peterman. I said I would go Tom Savage, just best receiving core, when they asked about all those. And
that makes sense.
And they told me they had a gut feeling on Peterman, and then somebody else who had no fantasy, just like fantasy anything in their bio came in and was like, yeah, I have a good feeling about Peterman too. And then they're like, yeah, I'm going to start him. I have him in.
Oh my gosh.
So for whoever did that, whoever didn't follow our 99.9% correctness.
Seriously.
Yeah, it's your own fault. Start Nathan Peterman.
Did they say anything after the game?
No.
Interesting.
Silence. I also got in a Twitter argument with it was somebody asking about Robert Woods, and I said Trey Waynes is going to be on Robert Woods and Xavier Rhodes will be on Sammy Watkins.
Right.
And then they basically said, oh, you're just saying that because or why would they do that? Robert Woods is clearly the best receiver. People
fantasy-wise,
yeah,
maybe.
He has been, but he's not actually the faster or bigger receiver. So, I mean,
right.
Sammy's a stud. I don't know why he's not being used, but he's a stud. So
he is.
The Vikings ended up playing sides, which he came back at me with that. And I was like, yes, they did play sides, and Xavier Rhodes happened to be on the side that Sammy Watkins was on all game. So,
yeah.
I mean,
interesting.
Whatever. What do I know? I just look at the stuff all the time.
Yeah,
whatever.
99.9%.
Yeah. So let's move on to our next section. Jonathan, do you want to introduce this one?
Yeah, so this one is called Fantasy Coma. So some background to this, like after you've had your Thanksgiving meal and you feel that food coma going on, you just like sit on the couch and want to pass out or do pass out. I mean, naps after Thanksgiving naps are good. So yeah.
Unless football's on.
Right, exactly. So and then you just watch football and just relax. It's perfect. Yeah. But I think relating that to fantasy, I think there's also players that go kind of into it. They get a slump, like they go into a quote unquote coma, and they're just like they're not in the groove and they struggle.
Right.
Seems like they're coasting. So This is naming some players that are in a fantasy coma right now that we think could potentially snap out of it.
All right. I think my first one, I'm going to bet you have him as well, Kareem Hunt.
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, still has that consistent workload, 17-plus carries in all but 3 games this year. And then he has an easy schedule coming up. He faces the Bills, you're not afraid of. The Jets say have a decent run defense, but, I mean, their pass defense isn't very good. So, I mean, Kareem Hunt comes out of the backfield all the time. Then you have Raiders, Chargers, Dolphins, and then Broncos, who you're not even afraid of anymore.
No, that's good.
Yeah. So,
I like that.
Easy schedule.
Yeah, and I think a part of the reason why he's in the slump, he's still looked good with his runs, but Andy Reid just isn't utilizing him enough. He had 4 carries in the first half last week, and then then 14 in the second half. But still, the first half only 4. He only ran basically unless Charkandrick West was in there for a couple snaps. They only ran the ball 4 times. It's crazy.
It does not make any sense.
It doesn't. Andy Reid he gets too creative, I think, and he tries too hard. So I just think even this week I think is the get right game, and then Buffalo's just basically been hemorrhaging rushing yardage and touchdowns. The Buffalo defense has. So I think this week is the week he comes back.
I agree.
Yeah.
Well, obviously it was mine.
Sorry, just chiming in.
No, you had the extra info. Go for it. Your next one.
My first one, Jamison Crowder. He hasn't scored a touchdown all year. He kind of been in a touchdown
Same
slump.
wavelength.
You got that one too?
Yeah.
Nice. I like this. But he's been getting more targets and looks, especially the past 3 weeks. He's topped at least 70 yards in the last 3 games, which is double-digit PPR points, which is really good. And his target share has gone up too. Past 3 weeks, he has 27.6% of the targets. When in the first 6 games, he only had 15.1%.
Actually tied for the lead in targets on the team, which is kind of surprising with that slow start.
Seriously. And I mean, it's weird just because Crowder last year, he was Mr. Dependable. You could count on him for a touchdown and 30 yards at least, around 10 points a game, But this year he's just been the opposite. But
yeah, he was a Jarvis Landry last year.
Pretty much, yeah. And another stat, he hasn't caught a touchdown pass in 13 consecutive games that he's had a reception, which is the longest active streak. So he's due, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it should be coming.
It's this week.
Yeah.
He's turkey.
He's a turkey.
He's not
true.
stuffing.
And they're going against the Giants, so it's definitely a primetime spot to score.
I mean, apparently the Giants are good, though. They went out and beat the Chiefs.
Seriously, apparently they're still trying.
After getting blown out by the 49ers, so I
don't understand.
Well, yeah.
That's weird.
So
you're next.
I took a little bit. I did 2 positive, 2 negative, and then I have 1 that's a no change for me. So
okay,
I have 2 negatives coming up. My Tevin Coleman. I just think he's going to go into a fantasy coma. You've kind of ridden that wave right now. He's scored a couple touchdowns in the past 3 games, I think, and
right.
He's consistently getting you those around 10 fantasy points, which has been nice. But I think his schedule is going to get a little tougher. He plays the Vikings. He's going to play the Saints twice, and then he also ends the season with the Panthers. So,
dang,
some tough defenses. I know the Buccaneers are in there, but those what do we got? 4 games are going to be kind of tough, especially going into the playoffs. You might want to avoid this backup running back.
I agree, and even with Devontae Freeman coming back sometime soon too.
Mm-hmm.
That drops his usage. Obviously, they use both of them, but drops his usage down a little bit than what he had last week.
Mm-hmm.
The past 2 weeks.
I agree.
I like that. My next one I had was Mike Evans. He hasn't scored a touchdown since week 7.
Which is crazy.
It's so weird. And now he has Fitzmagic throwing to him, which seems like it hasn't been too much of a drop off, I guess. He still had 5 catches for 92 yards last week, but just no touchdown. But it's also not the wide receiver 1 numbers that you want from him, So, but good news. They're going against Atlanta this week, who don't have the best defense. And Mike Evans' history with Atlanta is really good. He scored 4 touchdowns combined over his past 3 games versus them. So,
I like that.
Yeah.
And on the Buccaneers, Jameis Winston's not going to play this week. So another week without him.
More Fitzmagic.
Yeah. So Fitzmagic is good. He's a decent backup,
yeah.
But he's going to obviously be more conservative. Jameis is kind of that guy who will he doesn't make very smart decisions, but they pay off a decent amount of time. So he'll throw the ball to Mike Evans in triple coverage.
He takes chances.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
He can either be brilliant or really frustrating. Or Jameis Winston could end up, scrambling and be backwards and throw up just a lob pass behind his head and ended up getting picked off. But that's just the type of quarterback Jameis is. So Mike Evans is not benefiting right now with Fitzpatrick. But yeah, if the trade deadline was still there, I would be trying to trade for Mike Evans.
Right. Yeah, he would have been a good buy low for sure.
So I have another one that's going negative. He's going into a coma, and that's Amir Abdullah.
Ooh.
So he's highly inefficient. Had only 11 carries in 3 out of his last 4 games. Hasn't had 100 rushing yards this year, and hasn't had over 54 rushing yards since week 4.
Dang.
So completely touchdown dependent.
Yep.
So expect him to go into a coma.
I agree. It's like I have him in a couple leagues, and I've just been. It's just hard to start him. You just can't trust him. That's the hard part, you know.
He was trade value, and you don't have that anymore.
I know.
And by trade value, I mean like quotes in quotes trade value. Nobody really buys into him. I mean, unless you have that one Nebraska fan that really likes Amir Abdullah. Other than that,
very true.
My last one, just kind of no change. He's in a coma right now, and I don't think he's going to get out of a coma. Okay. And that is running back Doug Martin.
Yes.
13-plus carries in every game, but one since his return in week 4, I believe, or week 5. Hasn't scored a touchdown since week 6, and he scored 2 consecutive touchdowns, week 5 and week 6, and hasn't rushed for more than 74 rushing yards this year. And I don't think that's going to change.
No, I think everyone was calling his big week to be last week, and he struggled again. You know, I think that was his one chance to redeem himself, and then
18 carries.
Yeah. And he did nothing, and hardly anything. You know, I think you just give up. It's just not worth it.
Yeah, you shouldn't drop him just in case, but you're not starting him.
No, and if you are, you do not feel good about it at all.
Yeah, you're in a desperate situation.
Right. Very true. Let's see, my next one is Dak Prescott. He's only in a coma basically because Tyrone Smith is out. He basically just it's weird. It's kind of crazy that he looks that bad without his best tackle. Like there's that much of a difference. But last week he threw 3 interceptions along with a fumble, so 4 turnovers, and he ended up with negative points last week. So
he was the second to last quarterback last week.
Peterman was the only worse.
Peterman saved him.
This is so bad.
Need to turn the drops up.
Okay, all right. We'll just we'll redo that one.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, there we go.
Peterman and Dak.
True. But yeah, I think there's still hope. It looks Tyrone Smith is questionable to come back this week. Looks like he might play. So I mean, obviously, the slump may be stopped this week if Tyrone's back.
It's amazing to think that Dak Prescott but a huge chunk of it relies on Tyrone Smith.
Yeah, it's just so weird. I mean, obviously, yes, blocking the defenders makes that way you can complete your passes. It makes sense, but like. Still, I don't know. It's just crazy that
it's crazy
that one
to
guy.
Think how good he actually is, because literally nobody's getting to Dak Prescott when that guy's there.
Seriously,
but his replacements. Oh my goodness,
well,
they're
terrible.
Freaking Nathan Peterman's back there trying to block.
It's true.
Oh my goodness,
I bet
terrible.
Dak needs to just be like thanking Tyrone so much.
Oh my goodness, Zeke got them. Not ATVs, but like big John Deere. He needs to buy Tyrone Smith a yacht.
Seriously,
just get him a yacht.
He deserves it.
Yes. All right, so that is going to wrap up our podcast. You can follow us on Twitter at FrontlineFF. You can check out our website, frontlinefantasyfootball.com. We have links to everything. That's our podcast, Jonathan's blog, which you should go check. Why don't you talk about that real quick, your blog?
Yeah, actually kind of what we just talked about, the fantasy coma, I based my blog off of this week. So if you want some more in-depth, we put some more stats in there and some more in-depth things about the players there. You can go check that out. It's real nice.
Definitely do. They're always a good read. Always enjoy reading them.
They're fun to write.
So podcasts, blogs, you can check out our videos, our weekly rankings, our weekly flex rankings. We'll tweet those out. Waiver wire ads. We got everything for you. Check it out. FrontlineFantasyFootball.com. Also, we have links to toiletlosers.com/. You can check these out. These loser trophies sold on Amazon. We have the toilet with the crown on it. Solid trophy, really good quality. And then we also have the bobblehead, which is a guy sitting on a toilet with his pants down and a laptop.
I think that's my favorite one.
Sitting in a football helmet.
That one's good.
You can engrave the bottom. We engraved it loser right here. Shout out to them for sending us those. We also have the Donald trophy that we're going to do a giveaway. Just tweet Frontline. Tweet at us at FrontlineFF. Tweet Fantasy Donald. First person to do that wins this bad boy right here.
Boom.
So make sure you go out and do that. And I guess that's it. Remember,
Yeah.
score more fantasy points than your opponent this week. Until next time.